We're back, fresh off our performance review.
Hey, Andy, did you happen to get any 4s or 5s? Or were you just told that the 3s mean you're doing an outstanding job?
Yeah, they said if I got any more 3s, they'd name a parking lot after me.
In episode 2, we're doing what every HR department fears, ranking the worst jobs in sports. And trust us, the competition is brutal.
We'll also sit down with a real survivor of one of these glamorous careers. Eric Jones, former ticket office extraordinaire, joins us to tell us what it's actually like and drops a story that'll make you question everything about dream jobs.
Spoiler, EJ also has a majestic mustache, and somehow, even that couldn't save him.
Think your job is bad? Wait till you hear ours.
Episode 2, let's go.
On there! This is the true story of two washed-up sports guys who chase the dream. Private flights, championship rings, running sideline to sideline on per diem and adrenaline.
We gave our 20s and 30s to the industry, pulled off miracles that were never in the job description. In return, low pay, long hours, and we still got cut from the team.
This is about what really happens behind the badge. The burnout, the bad bosses, the dream job that didn't love you back. But also, the lifelong friendships, the chaos, the holy shit stories you couldn't make up. And somehow, despite everything, you'd still do parts of it all over again.
This is for the ones who lived it, loved it, hated it, and still kind of miss it. For everyone who's ever asked, how in the hell did we survive that? We are two former sports insiders with more than 40 years of experience and more than enough scars to make fun of it all.
And just enough trauma to start a podcast instead of going to therapy.
I'm Brandon Barca.
And I'm Andy Boggs.
And this is No Longer Credentialed. We once had access, now we have opinions.
As veterans of the sports industry, we've seen all of the jobs you can do in sports, and we're going to tell you which ones we think suck the worst. Before we get started, we just want to say just because the jobs suck doesn't mean the people do. In fact, in my encounters in sports, I absolutely love these people. They are the best.
So without further ado, we're going to count down from 5 to 1 our picks for the suckiest jobs in sports. Boggs, why don't you kick it off?
All right, BB, number 5 for me are equipment managers. The perks are righteous. They get all the gear. They control the gear, who gets it, where it goes, how much you get. But the hours and work is backbreaking. Before practice, after practice, weekends, washing dirty clothes, towels, etc. But like everything in the space, it can be super rewarding as well.
I can't even keep up with my own laundry, let alone an entire team.
Yeah. It's ridiculous.
That is a very difficult job and a very underappreciated job for sure.
It really is ridiculous what they do and how much work they put in. And it's a thankless job, but somebody's got to do it. And they do it with a smile on their face, which is awesome.
Well, my number 5, Boggs, you might be very familiar with this position. I'm sure it's somewhere on your list. I've got communications, also known as the SID in college sports. You're juggling egos and headlines, usually working for the highest paid person in the organization.
By a lot, by the way. By a lot.
Multi-million dollars. Whatever they say usually goes.
Yeah.
Try dealing with a coach after a loss as well. Not so easy. Or the player that's sworn off media altogether and says, no more interviews. On top of that, you've got to try to keep the media at bay. They want special access, but only to show up to one practice a month and want everything done for them. You've also got crisis comms. You're having to control basically everything that goes wrong that's out of your control. Player gets arrested, mascot tweets something stupid, coach goes rogue. It's on you to fix it all and fix it fast. There's also endless travel. You know, you're always on the road. There's spotty Wi-Fi. You're trying to connect on the bus to submit your stats and your game notes and all the other things you need to wrap up your game. while also trying not to miss the bus, which has happened several times, I know, to some people in this industry, where coaches are ready to go and you're trying to close everything out in the press box. You've got fast turnarounds, no sleep. You're thinking, I'm closing out game recaps one night. The next morning, you're preparing for another doubleheader. And, you want to think about job security at the end of the day. The coach wants to know if you're in the foxhole with the team or not. Doesn't matter if you're good at your job, the best at your job, perception is everything. And when it comes down to it, whether it's a player, whether it's a coach, or it's you in an issue, you're going to be the first one to go. So what are your thoughts, Boggs?
Yeah, I think my first thought is the fact that after getting out, I learned that business, you're really doing like 4 or 5 different areas of public relations. And, in the real world, there's probably one person to deal with each one of those things that you're dealing with. And so, there's just a lot of times, Barca, we were just thrown to the fire. Like we didn't know what we were doing, If something happens, you're just, you're expected to know everything, but really you don't. You don't have experience dealing in crisis stuff. You don't do it all the time. And so that was my big takeaway after leaving the business, is the fact that, man, there's people that just do crisis communications alone. That's all they do all the time. You worked for, a PR firm before, but you're, making the money that you're making, which is not much, but you're doing the job of probably 3 or 4 people, maybe more.
And even in crisis comms, as you find out, even what you think might be the right decision, you're always going to have to defend the logo or the coach,
right?
Regardless, and that can put you in some pretty tricky situations as well.
Man, it's unenviable. I've had a couple of instances, but nothing that I can think of that's just really, really terrible, where you're defending something that's not right. I think that's the thing that kind of hurts your heart a little bit sometimes, is you're ending up defending things that in your heart are not right. And that's hard to do, I think. I think it's really hard to do.
Yeah, I think the other hard thing too is just the landscape of the job has completely changed in the last 15 to 20 years. And it has with a lot of other positions as well. But the art of the job of being a comms person is not what it used to be. And a lot of that's because of all of the other asks that are needed to be done now within the job description, and how technology and social media and everything's changed.
Yeah. It's not for the faint of heart, and it changes every day. As the technology changes, that job changes. And now you got people that don't pay attention to anything that you do, right? Now you're actually having to probably do some pitching. In the past, you're just kind of gatekeeping. Now you actually have to, especially in a big city. If you're 4th or 5th on the totem pole, you got to make people want to care, and that's harder. The attention economy is what is the whole big thing now. Like, how do you get people's attention? So that's a pretty difficult thing to do. Barca, you want to go for number 4?
Sure thing. Number 4, of course, I had to have this on the list. Social media manager. There is no off season with a social media manager. Even when the team's not playing, you're still posting, planning, editing, surviving, just everything. And in fact, even the off season, there is no off season. The off season, it's even harder to create content because there is no actual news going on. There are no games and events, and there are no press conferences to pull content from. And so, while you're out there drinking margaritas, we're trying to figure out, how am I going to make sure our channel doesn't look dead this week?
Yeah, it's
big. Yeah. Yeah. And, that's a real creative, it really impacts the mind. And, I think the other thing is everyone thinks they know your job, and coaches, interns, marketing, admin, everybody sees what you do on a daily basis because everybody's on social media. Everybody has an idea. None of them, involve the timelines or the context needed. And, it's easy for other departments to just, check a box and just say, hey, throw this onto your social medias and promote it. And you know what? I don't blame the other departments, because if I was in the other department, that's one of the best marketing and advertising vehicles there is to reach an audience. But it's just kind of the last ditch effort for other departments to expect you to then post in those areas on top of the content schedule you've already created. There's obviously too many cooks in the content kitchen. Everybody also wants input. Again, you always have to be on creatively 24/7. It's exhausting, especially when you're expected to make magic with no sleep, tight deadlines, and just ongoing events throughout the weeks. The trolls are loud. I think this part of the job, to me, is one of the toughest. You have to have thick skin. After losses, it can be difficult to read all the mentions, not only from your own fans, but from other fans. And it can really affect engagement or the types of content that you can do. And it can really wear you down. And, you have to be very mindful of your tone and your grammar and all of those things that can directly get related back to you and your own job security based on how you portray something, even within the team, representing the team, or again, how the fans take that messaging. And there really is high stakes, zero margin for error. One caption, one emoji, one crop mistake, millions could be taking shots at the old admin. Back in the day, ended up with a couple of posts that ended up on Deadspin, which were not intended to be mishaps, and they get perceived a certain way, and some will see it as tone deaf, and then just you want to crawl under a rock for weeks, and it's very, very difficult. And so being on the front line of the brand is a lot of things can go wrong, and social's the first place people can come to complain about the work you're doing.
It's a never-ending battle. Just a clue, you may see that on my list a little bit later. I mean, it's hard. It's a really hard gig. And like we've talked about before, social media's changed so much since the beginnings. Think about the beginnings and how excited we all were to, hey, we can skip the middleman. We can go straight to our people with our announcements and creatives and all that other stuff. And then it just became this all-encompassing, overwhelming thing. And it never sleeps.
It's hard too, because when you're also trying to be creative and you're trying to drive interest and engagement, and from the perspective, let's say us working together in the past, from a comms perspective, I'm assuming probably one of your number one priorities when it comes to team messaging, because you're dealing directly with the coach and with the players day in and day out, is you're going to come from it through a comms perspective. Like,
yes,
yeah, this is the vibe of the team, and these are the things that are going on.
Yes.
Whereas a social manager will also want to think about who the audience is, the fan base, and how are they being engaged and entertained and educated. And sometimes those two worlds collide and make it extremely difficult on the social end, but then the social end can then in turn make it difficult on the comms end, right?
Yeah. And I think I'll kind of approach it from the team end. Wow, it's a tough gig. I don't know. I'd love to see stats on burnout of social media people. I mean, you were in that space. I mean, I'm sure that people don't last very long. And plus too, and I think another thing, and I think this is prevalent throughout all of sports, is there's no boundaries placed on people, like, hey, I only want you to do work this amount of time, or that social media gig probably needs to be a 2-person gig. So let's schedule it out where you work these days and you're off these other days. It's not like that. It's like if you're the social media manager, like you're the person all the time. And if you work in a collegiate athletic department, you're working with 16, 18, 20. You're in the Ivy League, 30 plus sports, You got to monitor those. If someone says something crazy, you've got to be able to tell your admin, yeah, this is what such and such said. You might want to keep an eye on this. I mean, it's never ending.
Yeah, I've succeeded at some of these areas, and I've failed at them as well, even on the managing end. And it's tough because you'll hear one message of, hey, from leadership, hey, your team really needs to take some downtime and refresh and relax and these next couple of days, and then you get 5 more requests that come in, sometimes from the same direction to fix immediately. And so it's difficult because a lot of times the lifestyle, it's you're told one thing, but then the actions are completely different and
Right.
you're at the end of the day trying, obviously, job security. You're wanting to bring the most value to a team that you can. So
Right.
it can be very, very stressful, and burnout is a real thing, especially in this area. And I've seen it happen a million times. I'm a 3-time burnout. So
Yeah. It's an incredibly frustrating position.
but the fire is still burning.
Yeah. It always burns, Barca. It always burns.
Let's go to number 3.
Do you want me to do my 4?
You know what? I can't count anymore. I want to hear your 4.
All right. So mine is it's a public facing job, and it's the ticket office people. And the amount of crap these guys take on the phone with so many clueless Joe Jacksons, it would blow your mind. But the stories are really good, and we'll hear some good stories. But it's just these guys just take it all the time, and it's just if you work for a busy athletic department or sports entity and you're always selling tickets, something's going to go wrong. Someone's going to not like their seat or not like the person in front of them or whatever. Just dealing with the public like that on a day-to-day basis is a very, very difficult gig.
It might be the hardest in one person's opinion. We might find out a little bit later on this podcast.
Yeah.
I think, anytime you're dealing with the general public, it is extremely difficult. I go back to my first job as in my teens, working in the restaurant industry. And, I just, when people, or if you've done yourself, when you've worked as a waiter or waitress in a restaurant and you deal with customers directly, you have a whole different appreciation for that line of work. And the same thing goes with the ticket office, just the amount of stuff they hear day in and day out. I mean, they're the first ones to hear it, win or loss, especially after losses when everybody wants to complain. And, you're dealing with people's financial situations as far as ticket purchasing and all of those things. Meeting, you have a stadium full of, let's say in the SEC, 100,000 fans, and you're trying to meet the expectations of every one of them. I mean, some of it sounds almost impossible. The fact that they're able to do that day in and day out and be essentially, like the major revenue driver for the entire organization is just crazy.
Yeah. It's a tough one, man.
I have a lot more thoughts on ticket office coming up as well. So, all right. Should we do number 3?
Yeah. You want me to go first?
Go for it.
Okay. Number 3 for me are marketing assistants and marketing people in general. These folks are constantly getting berated by coaches to bring more people to their games, especially the ones that, frankly, not a ton of people care about. The programs with big followings in smaller sports really make these jobs hard at 99% of the places out there. And sometimes you even have spouses of coaches join meetings so they can let you know about their harebrained ideas. It's really, really fun. Not to mention all the nights and weekends and mind-numbingly low pay. But that's mostly all of these jobs I'm mentioning anyway. The pay is not good. It's just, for me, it's just the expectations of these coaches and teams to bring people out to your games when they don't matter to people. And then you also have coaches that won't do anything to help you with that. They just want you to bring people to the game, but they're not going to do any things in the community to, help with the process. I've seen it happen. I've seen it kind of go off the rails, and it is just a really, really difficult gig.
Having worked in marketing for a long time, I did game presentation, ran events, did marketing assistant and associate and all those different roles. It's difficult. The perception by some people that, sometimes think that maybe it's a smaller sport, that it should be treated like the same as, say, the football team as far as the amount of hours that goes into it, right? And especially if you're working in college and you've got to juggle, say, 20 sports, you can't give each team, unfortunately. That was one of the hardest things for me always, was like, I know I can't split the piece of the pie evenly. So how can I make this work in a way to where everybody's satisfied, even the teams that, don't generate revenue for the bottom line of the overall department?
Right.
And heck, I remember one time at a game where not a coach, but someone on an ops staff, 45 minutes for the game, was so paranoid about attendance. And I was filming all access stuff, obviously doing my job down on the field. And they asked me to get my camera out and take a panoramic of the entire stands, like 30, 45 minutes to kick off. And, those are the things that may not have been a big deal. It just really represents how tough and how difficult these things can be, because my first reaction is like, hey, this is actually a lot bigger of a crowd than was here like 10 years ago.
Right.
And so, but it's still not enough, right? And it's not even close to kickoff. Right. So, I think we all take pride in our jobs. We want to get more people to the events. We want to entertain them. We want to nurture them as customers. We want them to come back. We want them to have a good time. But I think to your original point, like, let's be realistic here.
Right.
Let's be realistic.
All right. What's your 3?
Coming in at number 3, I have the groundskeepers.
Oh.
Brutal hours, early mornings, late nights, weekends. Again, sort of like the social manager, no off days in the season. They're basically the field's ER doctors. Constant pressure to make the playing surface perfect. Rain, snow, 100 degrees out, doesn't matter. They don't get to turn it off. The grass still grows and expectations never dip. And it's like the Sistine Chapel, like every blade of grass has to be perfect. Mm-hmm. And, I think a positive from it is you're out in the sun all day, and you definitely don't need a membership for a tanning salon.
Yeah.
On the other end, you're out in the sun all day and you're mowing grass, and, it's not like keeping up your lawn in the front yard. You can get that done in 30 minutes, have a glass of lemonade and be done. These guys are doing it.
Right.
Guys and girls are doing it all day long.
Yeah.
Every day. They obviously are very obsessive about taking care of it. And then like jugheads like me will think it's recess out there and just walk on there like it means nothing.
Right.
So groundskeepers are typically it's a difficult job because you got to play the bad guy role on everything. And every person in the department wants to be able to walk out on the grass on one of the off days and do whatever, and it's not a big deal. And so there's a lot of edge. This is a group of men and women that you want to stay on their good side.
Yeah.
And so keeping them in the loop because they can hold grudges, and I get it. I can remember back to one time from a coach that they're so meticulous about how the playing surface should be treated that the grass wasn't watered enough pregame. It should have been for another 10 minutes to make the surface wetter and faster, and it was too dry, which slowed down the gameplay for the game and was a part of the reason for the loss. So when you try to think about it from a groundskeeper's perspective on what they're dealing with, it makes a lot more sense than being like, why did that groundskeeper yell at me because I took 2 steps within the lines?
Right. Yeah, it's funny because I read an article about the Rays groundskeepers. They're having to deal with outdoor venue now, right? Because in the past they've just been their toughest job was vacuuming up sunflower seeds off the turf, and it was a tough job though, right? Because those seeds get stuck in there. But now they're having to learn how to put a tarp on. They're having to learn how to do. I guess the other day it rained real hard and they couldn't get the tarp on in time, and they caught a bunch of heck on social media about it. And then the Boston Red Sox former groundskeeper said he worked 120 hours a week. He's like, I'm dealing with a living organism here. I check the weather all the time, in the morning, in the evening, before I go to bed. I'm there at 6 a.m. The game doesn't end till 11, or so I sometimes sleep there. So yeah, it is an amazingly hard job and very, very time consuming. I mean, I thought working 80 hours a week was tough. I mean, these guys are working 100 hours a week in season. There's no glory behind what they're doing. No one's like patting them in the back. They're not thanking them on the Jumbotron every game. Hey, thanks to the groundskeepers for being awesome at their job. Dude, it is a tough one. It is a tough one.
And then you throw in from the revenue generation side and the pressures of like having to bring in more events outside of the sporting
Correct.
event.
Yeah.
During the season, to where, you bring U2 in for a concert and the field, ends up getting a lot more damage, or you have people commenting online. It's the same thing with like clothing or anything else visual that people talk about on social media. They come to the game and they're like, man, the field's really looking in rough shape. Why is it so bad?
Right.
And, one of the reasons might be because they're changing out grass in the middle of 100-degree summer weather, right?
Right.
Others may just be because there've been a ton of events that have come in,
Right.
or a lot of inclement weather. And so, people can see it initially and make an assumption based on something that really might not have been the groundskeeper's fault to begin with.
Yeah.
Sponsored by.
It's now time to recognize our financial backers of No Longer Credentialed, even though the checks still haven't come through.
Sponsored by Cheese Whiz. When you run out of budget for your pregame meal, you can always count on Cheese Whiz with a side of concessionary hot dogs to get you through that non-con game that really doesn't mean anything.
And a special shout out to the power of the free t-shirt. Hand rolled by unpaid interns, rocket launched into the crowd. You yelled for it, you dove for it, and it still doesn't fit.
Underly.
Back to the action.
All right, BB, we're counting down. You want to start with number 2?
Number 2, let's do this. Another position near and dear to my heart, the videographer.
Oh,
Love the
Love them.
videographers. Everybody now wants video. That's just the state of everything in 2025 as social media has expanded. Just video is really the number one requests, and coaches, players, social ops, marketing, recruiting, everybody, administration, everybody puts in their requests. And the thing that I think a lot of people don't understand is just how much of a time consuming process it is to not only produce video, but edit video, shooting, editing, sound mixing, color correction. Again, like you said, with crisis comms, like some places just have something specific for that. A lot of places outside of sports have somebody that's just there to shoot, and another person that's just there to edit, and another person that's just there for post-production, like sound mixing and color grading and all of those things. And you throw onto it like then all the different types of formats you need to release everything for. I need a 16:9 or square or vertical, story, reel, TikTok, Twitter, the video board in the venue. It's not only producing it once, but then making sure it fits in all these different sizes. And also the high pressure of an event. When that big play happens, it only happens once. You could be sitting there during a 90-minute soccer game and it's 0-0 the entire time, and then you're just waiting for that one crazy shot that's going to bounce in 4 different directions and go in. And
right.
You're expected to have the expertise to be able to grab that shot, but it's difficult. I don't think that people understand how difficult it is to shoot sports. There's no off button. You're at practices, shooting pregame, postgame presser, during the game. It's all types of elements. I'm sitting up in the press box eating Cheese Whiz and hot dogs, and these guys are down, wearing trash bags for rain gears on the field, and sitting there in the worst temperatures in February and the brutally hot summers, and they're there regardless of it and doing their job. And, I think the last thing I would say is, again, it's difficult to create videos. You also get a ton of feedback on them, and also a lot of little direction, like, hey, can you make us a real cool video? And then can we get that video by 3:00 today?
That's right.
And you're thinking like, man, wait, this should be at least a 2 to 4 week process for us to storyboard out, figure out the best way to shoot it, to tell this story, to edit it the right way. Or when you get the draft of it back, you give it back to them and they're like, well, can we change the music and the entire layout and format of this? And you're thinking like, okay, why wasn't that information in the initial request?
Right.
And it's just a lot to deal with.
I think it's the volume. I mean, I think back to, BB, you remember this. I mean, there would be time. I mean, I went to a conference championship game. We won a conference championship. I had no video with me, none. We hired a photographer, and now it's just there's video people everywhere. There's subscription services now for places where that's what they get. Like fans get behind the scenes video of chalk talks and wired ups, and I mean it is everywhere, and the volume, it's higher than it's ever been. It's going to probably get, I don't know how it can get higher, but I'm sure it will. I just think it's the volume, and there's just, you can't control the volume. It's just, there's game after game after game, and now I watch games now, there's like 4 cameras following teams around. And then I wanted to ask you, where does all the footage go? Like, who stores the footage? Where does it get stored? Who organizes it? I mean,
Don't get me
started. From like an archival SID point of view, I'm like, where does all this footage go? I mean, I don't know. There's a lot.
Hey, it's some of my past, it went nowhere. You know, they didn't have the infrastructure to store it all, which can, cost 7 figures to do properly.
Yes.
It is a really big investment. So then you're working off external drives and everybody's trading things out. And I've been part of that process, and it slows down efficiency, and it makes it even harder and more frustrating for videographers to do their job. And so, yeah, you're exactly right.
Yeah, I don't know where all the video goes. In a perfect world, you have an archivist that's, getting paid pretty decent money to go in there and organize all of it. And I just don't think any of that stuff's getting done on the back end.
Yeah, no, when you're dealing with some of these positions where videographers are wearing 8 different hats,
yeah,
it's, you have to figure out, again, the pieces of the pie to the day that what can you do just to survive and get by?
Yeah.
And you think about on top of it now, when we talk about just all the different platforms this video is going to, it's like, hey, we've got to fill a 30-minute weekly coaches show with video on local CBS. We also we need everything's in-house right now. We need refreshed videos for in-game entertainment, where it's an updated intro or halftime video, or something to make the fans go crazy. And on top of that, you got all the different social sizes, or you've got leadership needs something for presentation in the community. I mean, it is all the sponsorships have requests as well to satisfy their partners, another part of the revenue generation, and it's just coming from every single direction that you can think of.
Yep.
And overall, what happens is it impacts the creativity and the ability for the videographer to do what they do best. And that's tell stories and produce content that at the end of the day will bring value to the organization. And that's the hardest part, I think.
Yeah.
All right, Boggsy, what do you got for number 2?
Well, this one's a rehash, but I think social media managers get my second, the number 2 ranking on my list.
Oh, thank you, Boggs. Thank you.
But I think I come at it from a different angle. I come at it from like a coaching team point of view, and people, coaches, and admins think that's like the end-all be-all for recruiting. Like there's just not really a line drawn by administrators on what these people should and shouldn't be doing. So they do it all. Useless final score graphics, BS huddle posts, nothing to raise the value of the brand or actually bringing money in. There's some places that do it right, but you can count them on one hand. And this is for the college space. I think pros are a little more creative and work more closely with marketing to actually drive revenue. I think for me, it's like these posts get put up and there's not one thought about, hey, how can we make a little bit more money? At least that was kind of my take on it. It was just, how do we blow this kid up, this person up, this athlete up, this coach up to make their ego feel better? Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I just, that was really frustrating for me, especially being out of the business, and you just waste all of this attention and time on things that just don't really matter. There's no purpose, really. It's just purposeless stuff.
It's keeping up with the Joneses, right?
Yeah.
Like it's, we saw it as recruiting really bursted onto the scene as far as with social media and content. And it's always, well, hey, this Big Sky University, they send a DM once a day with these types of graphics and the players really love them. And it's those generic type of requests and things where you feel like you're in a position where you have to do it. But on the other end, if you were to use your expertise, to your point, to pitch them and say like, hey, you know what? If I didn't do 20 of these just posts that were just blasting out, DMing out to these recruits, we could spend some time on something really cool and creative. And then in return, it'll be like, well, let's do that also.
Right. It's like yes and, not yes or, and it's frustrating because I think there's a lot of cool things you could do on social media, but they take time and smart people, creative people that can do that kind of stuff. And so I just kind of take it from a different angle, but it's hard. It is so hard.
It is. And, I've had a lot of great coaches that I've worked with that understand a lot of that as well. It's kind of like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get from a head coach to an assistant to an ops person or anyone from that end on what the expectation is.
Right.
And everybody has a lot of times, with any job, with my own job, like I'm trying to look out for what I need to get my job done. And
right.
All of those different positions within a team are trying to individually look out for what they have to get done. And sometimes a lot of those things don't align even within a team or a staff for the actual team, right? Not the external branches from what we handled. So,
yeah. All right, BB, drum roll. Number 1 for you, bud.
Number 1. We've hit on this before. I think this is far and away the number 1 of all of the, I think as you termed it, suckiest jobs in sports. We love all of these jobs. We love all of these people. But again, ticket office staffer, to me, is number 1. Just to reiterate, front line for all the complaints. If fans are venting, the team loses, someone's too rowdy in the stands, standing up all game for the whole game, and the other season ticket holders upset, or even internally within a building, everybody wants tickets because they've got Bobby Joe and Susie Q are in town. And even if it's a sellout, well, like I told them I'd give them the 4 best tickets, and it always comes at the last minute. And then you think about game day. I think about those little ticket office. They're like little jail cells, those little like will call windows and ticket booths, right?
Yeah.
And they just sit in there for hours. Sometimes it's a lot of times halfway through a game until they stop letting fans in. So not only are you missing the game, you're sitting in this little box without the straitjacket, and you're just trapped in there and dealing with people's will call requests, or people that, hey, I thought my tickets were under this name and they're not there. And then you're trying to troubleshoot and make sure the fan has a great experience. And on top of it, you go to the ticket sales side of things for your staff and cold calls for a losing team. We've all been there when our team is like winless, 0-8, and the morale's in the gutter. And you're trying to sell season tickets or group tickets or special nights tickets, and you get on the phone and it's literally impossible and difficult because the product on the field does not match, what people think is worth the investment for tickets. And so been through a bunch of that. I thinking back to the mailing madness of there being thousands and thousands and thousands of ticket office envelopes that needed to go out for season tickets. And every individual department within the building was like, can you insert this into the season ticket mailer? Can you insert this? Then you end up with a stack of 10 different things to insert, and might seem easy enough to put it in one of them, but try multiplying that by 5,000 and then just see how much longer it takes. And, I think, gosh, I can think back to other types of issues. I mean, they're answering phones. Anytime there's a comms crisis that you're dealing with on the comms end, guess who's hearing about it on the very front line? Yep. Fans want to talk about it. Yep. You've got to have a response that doesn't put the department in a bad spot. And there's a lot of pressure there. And a lot of times with any customer or consumer, whatever you say is not going to matter. So you kind of have to sometimes de-escalate situations and make sure they're okay and listen to them. And that's not an easy skill set. And on top of it, I'm thinking like I'm all over the place, but season ticket holders that don't feel, and rightfully so, like that they don't get enough benefits from supporting the team year after year after year. And then they see these individual game promos of like half off tickets, and they're thinking like, well, why is the one-time buyer getting this sort of deal or incentive and the season ticket holder isn't? So you're dealing with so many different audiences. At the end of the day, you're trying to bring everybody in and fill the seats, but it's extremely complicated.
Yeah.
They definitely have to have the thickest skin in the building. They get blamed for a lot of the things that are out of their control. I just think of how difficult it is. All the ticket office staffs I've ever worked with have just been a pleasure to deal with. I don't know how they're hiding their frustration or being beaten down, but they really excel at those jobs. But I don't know. I always got to think about the grind and think about anytime you're dealing with people, regardless, like it is extremely difficult.
Yeah. It's a tough one, man. Those people are, I don't want to say angels, but I mean, just to have that kind of personality to deal with the kind of sometimes vitriol they deal with all the time. It's just, and you have to do it with a smile on your face. It's really for the brand, right? For the brand. And
I wouldn't have lasted 2 weeks in that position.
I know, right?
On top of, you start thinking about, then you start getting into like donor tickets and that's a completely different ballgame on that as well. So that's a whole nother can of worms.
Yeah.
But ticket office people, we love you. You take care of us.
You're the best.
Even after the fact now, we get great seats when we go to events, free tickets. You're the best. You put up with the most junk. That's why I had them at number 1.
Yeah.
Boggs had you at, I think, number 4 or 5. So just know when those requests come in from us that I think you guys have it the toughest.
Yeah. Well, my number 1, and I love these people. They are the best.
It's got to be comms.
Huh?
It's got to be comms.
Well, it's not comms, man. It's the athletic training staff. And I say this because, like, it could be life and death. They're on call 24/7. You know, the kids are at the D1 level. They're on campus 48 weeks a year. They get a couple weeks in August. They get a couple weeks in April. You know, if you go on a foreign trip or something like that, you don't get that break. So you have to be around for that. They have to be there. I mean, practices, games, off-season workouts, conditioning, recruiting visits, pickup games. I mean, they should honestly be 2 or 3 person gigs, kind of like the social media people. I mean, some even get asked to move closer to campus, to be closer to the kids. I mean, just outrageous things that sometimes they get asked of. And not to mention they have to make some decisions that could upset their coach and staff. You know, if a kid isn't ready to play medically, but the coach thinks they are, it could get ugly. Yet rarely do they ever get that way because coaches respect them more than anyone in the department. But I love these guys. They're incredible people, at least the ones I met, and some of them have become lifelong friends. And this is another aside. If I ever wanted information on players, like if I wanted the dirt on what's happening inside the team or inside the with the players or coaches or team or whatever, I went to those guys. I mean, the bonds they make with their kids are as strong as any in the department or any in sports. So super hard job, super rewarding, and not to mention you're shaving bunions off a kid's feet sometimes. So they get my number 1 for the toughest job in sports.
I tell you what.
Or suckiest job.
I need to rethink my list. That's a great one. I think also, I mean, some of these staffers, these trainers are heroes. And 100%. I can remember instances of pressures. Hey, look, in any job I've done in sports, somebody's life has never really been on the line. And I remember instances of player fainting at practice, and luckily the trainer had a defibrillator and saved. I mean, players that are, I guess I don't know the medical jargon of like what's like clinically dead or not, or how that works, but scary situation, and was able to revive somebody back to life. I mean, that is insane.
Yeah, it's tough, and just like everybody else's jobs, they've grown harder and harder through the years. I mean, if they're playing pickup, there was one instance where someone was in town playing pickup for a recruiting visit, and the recruit got hurt, but there was no trainer there. And so, at the end of the day, they have to start covering that. They have to start covering, off-season workouts, at least in other sports. I'm sure in football they always did, but it just has gotten worse. Not worse. It's just more taxing, and the volume is just more and more and more and more and more. Honestly, those guys need to be sharp for what they're doing. And it's, if you're working as much as they're working, maybe sometimes you can't be as sharp. I mean, man, these guys, they're literal angels. Like you said, I mean, saving people's lives, and they sometimes they do it. Most of the time they do it with a smile on their face. And they do it because they really care about the kids, and they really care about the program. And so, yeah, it's a sucky job, but it's very, very rewarding.
Yeah, I think of those, gosh, just putting myself in those shoes of how many times we're watching sports events and someone gets hurt, and just how quickly they have to react, assess. Obviously, the coaches are trying to figure out, is this player still available or not? I can't imagine what that pressure is like in trying to assess whether or not, hey, look, it's probably not good for this player to go back in versus, okay, how can we get them back on the floor? Every situation's different. And then I think on the other end of it, you got a couple jabronis like you and I, probably more so me, that will just walk around and just to go into the training room. It's like, oh my gosh, I think I pulled something else in my back. They're out here sitting here saving lives and getting people ready for performance. And we're like, the marketing guys, oh my gosh, my back.
I threw my back out today. Come to the training room. We'll give you some heat, and give you some exercises. Or, I mean, honestly, I don't want to get in trouble with this, but they also had a lot of Gatorade, and it was amazing. You work out or whatever, and it's hot, and they're there with a cold cup of Gatorade or whatever, or a bottle of Gatorade. I mean, come on. You remember those days. Those are incredible. They're keepers of the Gatorade.
What are those things? What are those called? The honey waffle,
the Stingers, boosters? Dude. The Stingers. Oh, yeah.
Those were great too.
I mean, you could eat like 10 of those.
And then you think at some places as well, nothing that I would ever be familiar with of, sometimes when they have road travel, they're not on the team bus.
They're not on the team bus. That has happened before, which incredibly, I don't even know how that happened, but he's driving a Suburban, eating smoked almonds and drinking a Venti tall coffee, Venti coffee. And it's just, I don't know how that happened, but
they still get it done though.
But it did, I mean, heaven forbid, something would have happened to one of those kids. I mean, on a bus that he wasn't on, and we kind of dodged some bullets there. Talk about PR crisis communications. If something would have happened, and oh no, the athletic trainer's 30 minutes up the road, driving a Suburban with the ticket office person and the SID and academic guy. Like, yeah, I mean, it just, again,
hopefully you got shotgun.
It wasn't my decision. Yeah, I rode shotgun, man. I helped us get to our destination. So those are our top 5 suckiest jobs in sports.
So no comms on your list.
No comms on my list.
I think you.
Well, social media is comms.
You have let down your industry.
Yeah.
This is just a failure of epic proportions, and I can't believe that you don't have it in your top 5. I had it in my top 5. I respect comms, whether we butted heads in the past or not, or celebrated victories. But you're just like, nope, it's not a 5er.
Well, you've seen my photos that I sent you from Maui, right? I'm in a beach hat and like have an umbrella drink and catching some rays or jumping off a cliff or whatever, right? I mean,
that's true.
There's some perks to it.
Trips.
Yeah, there's some
Yeah.
perks.
Yeah, it was pretty easy. Maybe I should take that off of my list.
No, don't
then.
take it off.
You did leave. You led a pretty charmed life.
Don't take it off. Don't take it off, dude.
Well, I'm sure there'll be a lot of debate on each of our lists. All
Sure.
three people will probably dissect it and complain about it.
Yeah.
But the moral of it all is they're all difficult jobs, and really just depends on how you perceive everything. But I think it's a good reminder too to also get out of your own personal box and think about where these other staffers are coming from. I think from my end of a group I didn't have on the list that I think a lot of people would be, if we're talking about like honorable mentions, I think sponsorship people have it tough. And I know from a marketing or a comms or social person's perspective, a lot of time it's a pain in the rear because of the requests that are coming through that conflict with your own strategy and expertise on how to do a job. But one thing that I always kept in mind, especially after agency work, is they are dealing with clients and they're driving revenue overall for the department. But when you're dealing with actual clients and businesses outside of your office, it can complicate things. And those relationships, they are very difficult to nurture to be able to retain those clients. And a lot of times they're high demand clients. Sometimes they're perfect. You just don't know what kind of bag you're going to get.
Yeah.
But then that person has to take that relationship and then figure out, okay, how am I going to relay this information to our marketing or our comms departments in-house on how this project needs to be adjusted or how all of these extra assets now need to be created.
Yeah. I think the bottom line is most, if not all, of the people we've dealt with in these positions have been incredible. And they're incredible people. They do great things for the department. They don't get thanked enough, and they should be thanked. So if you're in the business and next time you see your athletic trainer, tell him thank you. Buy him some smoked almonds. Buy her some smoked almonds. Call it a day, and thank him.
Hey, I don't know about this thanking stuff, man. One time I worked at a place for 5 or 10 years and I got a pin.
I know.
It was a nice pin.
Yeah.
I never wore it.
Yeah.
Maybe a pen I would have used. I got a pin.
Yeah. Like a fountain pen.
Yeah, fountain pen would have been nice, but it was an actual like lapel pin.
Yeah.
And that to me defined like, man, this was 5 years of service.
So
this
worth
was
it.
10 years. And I will always be grateful.
So worth it. I have all those things. Okay. You get it. This new segment is called You Get It. And our first guest is none other than Eric Jones, who is a former ticket office executive in Nashville and a former PA guy at a few of our local Krogers. He's also worked one of our top 5 suckiest jobs in sports.
In fact, EJ, first of all, we're loving your majestic mustache. The ticket office made both of our lists. I have it at number 1. I know you enjoyed a lot of aspects about your job. Tell us about the times where, you just were like, man, this is just not worth it.
Well, first, let me say, both of you guys, this is an honor indeed. I know we've talked about it over the years, but you guys kicking off No Longer Credentialed is awesome. So I guess I should be honored that this is one of the suckiest jobs. I hear that a lot. But yeah, I mean, ticket office is kind of a natural doorstep, I guess, into any organization that sells tickets. I mean, it's pretty logical as far as that goes, but it's extremely long hours. I mean, I walk a lot. Every day I try to get at least 6 miles in, and a football game, in my past would be, it's going to be over 10 miles, 11 miles, 12 miles. It's going to be, 30,000 steps. So long hours, grueling, all kinds of weather. And it's service, right? So, I mean, service industry, you're going to get a lot of complaints. And the ticket office, it's always a complaint. So many times you're seeing people at their worst. They might be drunk. They might be drunk and irate because they've got counterfeit tickets that they bought in the parking lot for a beer. I mean, it's just all of these things. So you're seeing people at their worst. They're so mad, and they're just taking it out on you, and that's what happens in the ticket office. On the service side, if you're on the sales side, you hit a goal, you celebrate, and then next thing you know is we think you can do 10% better next week for next week's game or next week's event. So it can be a lot of pressure, but you just got to get ready to be thrown under the bus a lot. When things go wrong, it's always, I wish our ticket office was better. So you just kind of have to go with that. But yeah, I mean, I guess that's kind of a thumbnail of why the ticket office is something that people will say, you suck, that kind of thing.
Do you have like a time where you just got such an outrageous call that you went home to your wife and you're like, you'll never believe what happened to me today at work?
Yeah, many. But I'll say that the one that probably floats to the top every time, because every Christmas my wife Laura will tell people this at parties once they find out that I used to work in athletics. And so there was one football coach that somehow got a key to the ticket office. It was secure. It was like Fort Knox, because you always have money in there, right? And I had a key to it, and never knocked, just would come in and would love to show us as a team, as a ticket office team, tweets from that morning that he received and emails, and he would just get in, do coach speak like yesteryear Chris Farley, be like, you've got to sell more tickets, and why aren't these phones ringing? And I'm like, it's not quite like that, coach, but I appreciate your passion in coming down here. So this one year, the school had made it to a bowl, and that was a big deal. But, as far as bowls go, it's always during the holiday break. And this one was like right after Christmas. And so I have a call to my home phone. This is when I had a landline, not my cell phone, my home phone, on Christmas Eve. And it's an assistant, and the assistant calls, identifies himself, says, Coach wants me to give him a ticket update before he goes to sleep for a couple hours. I was like, really? It's Christmas Eve. Are you serious? And I thought it was one of you jokers at the time, but no kidding. He asked me, and I didn't have my laptop on or anything. I made up a number, and I made it particularly, so it would be realistic, because it was low. It was low. I mean, we still had a few days, but it was not much movement from the last time I'd give it to him. And the coaching staff was always asking for updates, like 3-4 times a day. So he goes, that's your number? And then and I said, yes. And he hung up. So I'm like, I tell Laura, she's like, who the hell was that? And I told her, and she goes, this is getting ridiculous. I'm going to answer it next time. On Christmas Day, it's like 9:30 in the morning. We are in the middle of opening presents. And so the phone rings again, and we think, oh, it's our parents, it's our families calling to say Merry Christmas or whatever. No, it's the same assistant. And this time he's like, cuts right to the chase. He goes, what's the number this morning? And I said, Merry Christmas. And he goes, oh, yeah. Merry Christmas. And I can hear the coach in the background of the phone call, so I know they're in the same place. And he's going, just get me the goddamn number. And so I can hear him, and I said, it looks like we sold 3 tickets overnight. And the guy relays it to the coach, and he just goes, fucking pathetic. Hang up that fucking phone, and just hangs it up. And Laura's like, what was that? Are you serious? She goes, I got the caller ID. Give me the number it called from. And so we had like a Christmas morning opening presents fight about, calling back. And she was just going to basically say, if you ever do it again, I swear I'll kill you, And so that was the most ridiculous one that comes to mind on that one fateful December.
I don't know why I've never heard that story.
It never sleeps, man. Like the whole thing just never sleeps, ever. Ever, ever, ever.
No, and you can't tell people that because they are so focused on their jobs. In athletics, you're so focused on your job, and you get to being able. You guys know this. It's like I need to know when this is going to be done so that I can go to sleep and enjoy my life, not even thinking about
right.
All the other people that it's affecting.
Right.
So we know about all the crappy moments. But obviously, there was a lot of times in the trenches where we all kind of just stuck together and you do whatever you can to survive. Your office, in the ticket office, was a gathering place for most of the department all the time. Good vibes, good culture. Why was that important to you?
Well, kind of based off of what we were just talking about. I mean, we all work so many hours together. I mean, just so many hours. You're looking at 75 in season. You're looking at 75 to 80. Sometimes 85 hours a week to get stuff done. And it's crunch time and everybody's busy and everybody is running on empty. So, you got to acknowledge that we spend a lot of time together. We got to have fun in the trenches when we can. Gratitude is sparse. I think we did a pretty good job across, the places that I worked. We did a pretty good job. I tried to do a pretty good job. And I think the people that I really, worked with that I cared about. I think they did a good job of saying thank you, but you got to make sure that if you're working with other people, the gratitude is genuine and it's all the time because you don't get any gratitude from the top down. If it goes well, you might get something at the end, but everybody up top is like, oh, how much is this going to cost me in raises or bonuses? So, it's supposed to be fun. It's sports, it's entertainment. And you got to rely on so many people to be successful. I mean, the ticket office was one part of it, but it took so many others in marketing and media relations, social media to just, tell people, hey, tickets are available or what, when crucial information about how to get tickets and when tickets were coming to you. So, I mean, the ticket office, for me, I always wanted to make sure that it was a place that people felt like we weren't grumpy people. I know a lot of ticket offices get a really bad rap of being underappreciated, and so they take it out on the people around them that are just trying to help, and you can't do that. And so I always made sure, I tried to make sure that that was never the case. You got to celebrate when you can. You celebrate small things, you celebrate big things. I mean, so we did. I would send out emails and tell everybody when there was a time to celebrate because I always had a budget built in where it was like, I called it birthdays, but it covers birthdays, it covers divorces, it'll cover your bris for your kid, whatever it is, we're going to celebrate it, get some ice cream cake and everybody, get a piece. And nobody even really sat around that much. It was like standing around in the back of the ticket office. And at some point, somebody would say, hey, I think somebody dinged the bell up front that they want to get service. And you're like, oh, okay. So, it's time to break it up. But, having some ice cream cake was always a big thing. And, we worked too hard. You got to celebrate.
So I'll always remember the ice cream cakes. But I wanted to get your, maybe you could do a top 3 flavors of your ice cream cakes.
Good question. You got to be careful because, depending on whose birthday it was or, who got a pregnancy test back negative or whatever it was, whoever you're honoring, right, you had to make sure that person in some way, shape, or form liked the cake that you were getting. So I did have an Excel file of, like when this person has a birthday or that person has a birthday, what cake they like, or more importantly, what cake they didn't like. My personal favorite was always mint chocolate chip. Always loved that one. But unfortunately, it was at the lower part. Like nobody liked that. So it was unfathomably always turtle with the caramel on top of it, or there's a chocolate explosion. It's like the more chocolate, the more caffeine, the more diabetes you can get was like in that chocolate one. So it was a chocolate cookie crust and with caramel on top of it. And I would probably, unfortunately, have to have chocolate mint as a third one. But it seemed like more caramel and definitely chocolate on the top of it.
I really thought mint chocolate chip would have been higher. Kind of disappointing. Do you have anything else for us?
I want to encourage you guys to keep going with this. If nothing else, to amuse the people that need some amusement in their life. There are so many stories and so many group texts and so many things that we just keep reminding ourselves as we grow farther and farther from it and get older. Man, these things need to be preserved somehow, some way, and publishing just takes too long. So I think the podcast format is both ingenious and about par for the course for something like this. I am so looking forward to seeing how far this goes. Talk about $1 million idea. Way to go, Boggs and Barca.
Do you think the burnout is more intense now these days than it was in the past?
Yeah, I do. I think there's an awful lot of burnout in sports entertainment. I think there's more burnout at the start now than there used to be. I still work some baseball games time to time, and I'm a day worker, and I get to see the quality of the individuals that are coming in and working. And through the season, a baseball season, can be up to 162 games, and the quality of the people that were doing the jobs around me when I was working in that side of things, it's not good. I mean, there are some really talented people, but they get burned out so incredibly quickly. I think a small gesture, small as it is, of just saying happy birthday or saying happy anniversary or, saying, hey, I'm glad you got rid of that guy because he was no good for you. Whatever it is that you're celebrating, there needs to be more of that because too many really talented young people are burning out of this like in year one, maybe year two. So, yeah, I do think about that. I think that it has, unfortunately, celebrating the small things, it's really gone to, well, if you really appreciated me, you would give me a $5,000 bonus. And that's just not feasible.
Yeah, I just want to go on the record. I never missed one of the birthday ice cream cake socials. You could hear me knocking on the back door of the ticket office to let me into the vault. I did enjoy the turtle flavor. I feel like there was an Oreo cake too from times. I celebrated all of them. And I usually had the first slice, and then I was the first to have a second and third slice. So thank you, EJ, for your hospitality. We love you. And yeah, I think when you talk about, trying to find a good staff culture, I think it's just thanking people for showing up every day when they walk in the door. Because man, there were some rough days, and showing up is half of it, right? And so definitely a lot of difficult days, but so many wonderful memories that will hold with us forever, and new stories like you shared with us today that I had never heard, but totally believe every second of it.
All right, guys, good luck. I look forward to it.
We'll see you at Honey Baked Ham. Typo.
I'm up to my ears right now.
We're up to our ears about these topics, and we can't take it anymore. Boggs, take it away.
I want to preface my comments here that in my years, I had positive relationships, interactions with 99% of the people I worked with in television. They work extremely hard, do a lot of games, and flew commercial when I was asleep in my bed 3 hours after the game ended. This is not for them, it's for their bosses and their absolute idiocy in making broadcaster assignments. I am absolutely flabbergasted about how this is done, especially in college football season. How in the world can you put someone on a broadcast who A, is a graduate of one of the teams playing, and B, has a family member who is also participating on said team? Is that good for the audience? Is that good for the sport? The answer to that question is no. But you know who it's good for? The announcer doing the game. Unfortunately, for one of the entities broadcasting a majority of the games, they believe the focus of the game should be on the broadcaster and not the game, the atmosphere, or the people playing the game. Or this one, let's put someone on the biggest games of the year after doing no games, zero, nada, during the regular season. It's a kick in the shin to all of the other people who bust their butts throughout the year to not allow at least one of them to broadcast the pinnacle of the sport they've been slogging around watching for 3 months. They work for the same company. I'm up to my ears, BB. I can't do it anymore.
Time to wrap it up.
And that's another edition of No Longer Credentialed. Thanks to all of you listening, and if you like it, tell a friend and give it a 5-star rating on your podcast app of choice. Next week on the pod, we examine the Bill Belichick situation from a department and PR point of view, and I have a perspective you haven't heard before. We'll also hit the therapy couch and speak to the psychology of working in the business and ask each other pressing questions about our 40 years of service. You won't want to miss it. Don't forget to check us out on social media at NLC Pod on X, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, and YouTube. We'd love to hear from you. Until next week, keep grinding.
Now, you guys are talking about worst jobs. It's about 20 years ago. This is probably the third school that I worked at. There was a sewage backup at a baseball tournament at a school, and they couldn't get a hold of a janitorial service or a facility management team. And I said, I know how to do it. I'll go down there and clean it up. So I had to clean out the sewage, pump out the dugout, and I had to go back up to the press box, finish my media relations jobs, and go on with my day. That was not the best job I ever did, but I did it. I'll hang up and listen.